Lots of frame manipulation this week, both in the brood and honey super boxes. For brood boxes, we want the queen in the bottom box with space to lay eggs. Honey in the bottom brood box we want to move to the second brood box. Today we continue to have brood in the honey supers, so we take a super of frames that are mostly honey for extracting and leave a super of frames with honey and brood as the top box. A box with empty but drawn frames is inserted between brood and honey supers to give the bees a bit more space to retreat from the sun and the heat during these hot days.
We know from last week we had a honey gain in this hive pretty good, and we've had a 2-pound loss today. We pulled the 2 supers off, one sitting there and one sitting there. From last week's inspection, we know we had brood in both supers, and it was capped, okay? So our goal today is to pull at least 1 super of honey. We'll combine the brood into one box, put it in the 4th position. We'll put an empty super right here just for the bees with this heat to come up and hang around in, because you don't want them all hanging out on the front entrance. So we'll check this second box and this bottom box. Now last week when we came through the bottom box, there was very little brood, fresh brood. So then we found the queen upstairs. Brought her downstairs. So now we're sitting here in pretty good shape to see if she started relaying this. You can see they're pretty gentle right now, but look at how many bees are indoors versus working with all this smoke. So Jim's going to ease out a frame here. We're hopefully going to find the queen working. So if you'll remember, we moved that pollen frame to the outside last week so that they would be able to keep the brood going. You don't want to have a pollen in the middle of your brood box. It will serve as a barrier, same as a honey frame. Looking at the bees laying on there, pollen, brood. And she probably got some eggs there. We don't spot any eggs real easy here, so let's look at another frame. But we know the queen was down here when we closed it up. She might have gone to the number 2 box. We have a little bit more brood right now than we did last week. And the bees are hanging on the frame just beautifully. See, looking at it over my shoulder like this, I've got the light right on it. There's not a lot, but there are a few. So we have the queen downstairs laying.
There's a lot of eggs on this frame.
And we got a lot of eggs on this side, Jim. So we've got eggs, we got a queen doing her job. Sometimes it's hard to find eggs this time of year because your comb is darker, but
Here she is.
And Jim just found our lady. You see it okay, Chris?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, she's nice and big and fat, isn't she? This is a really nice queen. This has been an ideal hive all year. So she's down here doing her job in the bottom box, which is what we want. There's still quite a bit of pollen coming in. As we're moving these frames around, we're having some fall off the frames, which you remember, the bees bring it in, they drop it in the cell, your cell's at an angle. They pack it in a little bit. And usually at night they do something with it.
Do you want to go any further?
Yeah, let's look at the next one and see what we got. We just got to make sure we got some brood there. So he's got larvae here, so the queen is doing pretty well. If I remember right, we dropped her off on this side last week. She kept trying to run away. So, looking good. So she's downstairs doing what she should do. Remember, we know we had lots of cat brood upstairs. I think we're good here. And we're gonna slip that frame back in and see what we got in the second box. Right now, this time of the year, I wanna make sure, or we wanna make sure that we're starting to look at honey stores. Now look down here, all these bees standing down here with pollen on them. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a pollen laying there. There's one there. There's one there. There's one there. And look at the number of guard bees. Here's a guard bee right here. Watch how they act. They come out, they approach the bee. That bee might not belong to this hive. Not, they're gonna let her in. Nope, she can't decide what she wants to do. There she goes. Okay, let's take a look at our second box. So we've been seeing a lot of posts on Facebook about your hives going to all of a sudden being a lot more defensive. We want to warn you that bees do that when you got these kind of conditions. So I'll sit it over here. And that's all honey. So we know this frame here is honey. Brood. Wow. So we got a problem here is that we got a lot of brood upstairs that'll hatch out. Not much honey coming in to fill that up. So let's see what we got.
We want to
Brood. This girl is a laying machine. If you count just what we've looked at and what we had down there, we're probably 6 frames of brood right now.
Do we want to put any of that brood downstairs?
I don't know if there's any room.
She's down there laying. I'd leave her alone.
Yeah.
No honey frame to bring up except for one. We'll look at it. Okay, look at that. She laid brood.
This is all larva up in here too.
So there's 3 frames. What's the other side? Brood 2? Yep. Nope. Open.
Larva.
Oh, little witch. Some days you don't like your queen with some of the things she does. Honey. So we're in pretty good shape. We've got 3. So give me 1 second here. I'm going to look at this outside frame we looked at here. With the nice heat we got, having brood on the outside is absolutely no problem. Take a brood frame out, put that in. So we're going to take the couple brood frames out of here and put it over here. And it's and look at that, you've got nice cat brood going on the outside with honey on it. That's a perfect frame. Now we're going to look at this other outside frame if I don't knock this over. And we'll take another frame out. This has got good pollen and honey on it. You want to put that on the outside? Yeah. Okay, and we'll put this over here. And it's got good honey on it. So this, we got enough honey downstairs to hold the bees until a good part of the winter. And we'll put this back in there. So we now have 6, 7 frames of honey upstairs, maybe 6.5, and 1 frame of brood, and we've got all brood downstairs except for we've got a couple empties down here for to lay in. Okay, Jim's going to set that back on there.
Lots of bees on the bottom.
Oh, let me get them. Okay. So Jim's now going to look at, we know where the frames were right in the middle when we left that. So he's going to take, you should be able to get them out right in the middle. Which, was that the top one there?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, shit. My hand ain't working.
You want me to shake these?
No. Okay, just wait a minute.
Okay.
We're going to put the brood in this one.
Yes, because that's got a whole bunch of brood in it
Okay,
already.
yeah, go ahead and shake it. So we're going to shake the bees there. You want to grab them? We'll set them in this empty box so we can manipulate things around. Fortunate thing for us is we got empty boxes.
With a brush and a plastic or wooden secure box, this technique of removing honey frames can be done quite quickly and efficiently with few or no hitchhiking worker bees.
Send it over there. Okay, that was the frame that had brood on it. It still has?
No.
Is it full of honey?
Yep.
All of it?
One, two,
Okay, go.
they've all hatched out.
So as you can see, we're just manipulating frames. A lot of times doing all this stuff is a lot of work of manipulation. If you have two people, goes a little faster. How many are you gonna have there?
7.
You got 7? Okay. We have down here 1, 2, 3 full cap frames. These are wall-to-wall capped all the way, no hatch out. And we put one in with about a quarter of a frame of brood. We'll now put this box in that 4th position. And I've cleaned it. Okay. Thank goodness we got Jim here today to lift all this stuff. Oh. Yeah, you go. One thing I like about these, there's room when if you have bees on the lid to go in.
Yeah.
Okay, so next week we'll be looking at this hive, this box right here, to see if it's all hatched out. We'll probably remove the honey. We could probably take this one off next week because the temperatures are going to drop here pretty quick. And when they do, we start thinking about medicating, and you'll be available to use Apivar or Formic. We have enough room in this second box for some of that brood to hatch out, and they could put any honey flow they have at the end. So we determined we have about 8 frames of brood downstairs. We have about 7 frames of honey in the second box, which is real good. So this hive, bottom 2 boxes, is pretty close to winter. Now we got to monitor.
We got about 4 frames of brood up here.
So there's going to be a lot of bees. So we might end up leaving this on for a little bit. They'll get no honey in it, but it'll have room. Okay? I think that does it for today. In the frames?